Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, host of the Praxi Pod. And today we've got a special edition of the Praxi Pod because we're crazy enough to do it on a bank holiday Monday.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's apparently the bank holiday Monday in the UK, Uruguay, the Philippines, and St. Helena. So welcome.
Company.
Exactly. We've got a very nice company, very nice locations. So welcome, Roberto Maranca. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I know you come back on the show a few times over the last 18 months, but there's a really special reason why we decided to do today's episode. Much gratitude to you actually for putting all the effort into getting this out, because I think what you've done is incredibly important in a very important time in history. I think to do with the topic that we both know a lot about, and I think care a lot about, and I think that comes across in the thing that you've created. So I would say, high 10 to you for doing this. So I suppose, do you want to just explain to the audience what you've done or what you're about to share with the world, and when we can get into the meat and two veg, so to speak.
So when you have that thing in your head that goes on and on and on and that grows, and you think you have something to say. Yeah, I thought I was having something to say. An editor, Cookham Page, approached me and said, "Hey, it sounds like you have a nice story to say. Would you like?" And I said yes. And only 2 years and a half after, basically on October 3rd, we launched my first, very likely probably the last book. And so it's called Data Excellence. It's about something I felt passionate about for a long time now, and I was even having a role as a data excellence VP at a certain point. So I believe it's a summary, summa, as we were saying in Latin, of what has been my experience in the last 30 years or so, and more aptly the last 10 years, in which I really been delving into data and this fantastic world of data and AI that we all try to grapple with and try to get the best out of it. A very long story short, yes, there is a book now coming out, and it's called Data Excellence, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've been, I've actually been in the process of writing a book for a lot longer than what you just said. So I would say, hats off to you for getting it out so quick.
God,
anyway, let's.
But it's a fruit of a love, right? It's a labor of love, they say, and that's it takes a long time, and it's something that you love and hate at the same time, and in different times of the day. But if you are passionate enough, if you push enough, and if you are having the right support network, because I was supported a lot, and then you get something out. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I'm not going to give away all the secrets from the books. Obviously, the book's not physically in people's hands yet, but I've got a few questions. So, obviously, there's a lot of topics, people call, there's things like data governance, data engineering, data analysis, data stewardship, etc., etc. So, you've gone and called it data excellence, and you talk about it going beyond data governance.
Yes.
What, in your observations, I know you've worked in some very interesting organizations that we've both worked in as well, which we'll come back to a bit later. But where do you find people get most stuck, on this kind of journey of data excellence? Is it in, method or culture or value or all of the above? What's your observation? What's your experience?
Everyone has got a very clear understanding of the value. They don't, but the issue usually is how to get there. Intentionally, the book is organized in 3 pillars, because it's a sequential thing. That then there are 3 aspects of what you need to be your preparedness, and that at a certain point are getting together. So I think the place where I've seen people stuck the most are in the really understanding what is that they want to do. So it's more like the cultural thing. As I call it I introduced this metaphor of the data personal trainer, because the trainer is the one that you go to and say, I like to do this. So your mindset, your ambition has to be very much present and articulated to you and clear, so that someone can help you, right? So sometimes I feel that clear understanding of the ambition is not enunciated in an explicit way, but it's more like an implicit, I like to be data driven. Oh, we like to be good at AI. Oh, we like to get more value from our customer. in the majority of cases, you can't go to after the to the next. Okay, why? Right? You know the famous 5 whys and 2 H of data quality, right? They say why, how, right? And so you get, okay, you want to be good for data driven. Why? Oh, because and then already on the second, people are a bit stuck, and so that creates, unfortunately, a misunderstanding of how you get to the next level. And so
what you're saying is they probably know the value, or they think they can see a value, on the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
But they don't usually know the method.
The journey is
right?
not there. The journey is not there, but also to have a clear journey, you need to understand with clarity what is your ambition, right? Because the journey and the method is based, and again, in improving your performance. It's one thing you want to run a marathon, one thing you want to run 100 meters fast in your personal best, faster than Usain Bolt. Two very, appropriate and very well meant ambitions, but they're having completely different regime, completely different type of training, completely different set of muscles. So the same thing in data. The fact that you are wanting to create value for your customer, that's fine. Everyone wants that, but how you get to that is informing better what's going to be the journey you go through. So the second part that I see people stuck on is in the absence of a true change methodology. So because data cannot be data by itself, right? You cannot do data for data's sake. Data is always part or a payload of something else that you want to do. So strategy is to go, I want to go from A to B, right? And to go from A to B, A being what's my performance today, what's going to be my performance tomorrow, or A, what's my market share today, what's going to be my market share tomorrow. So there's more than data to get from A to B, but that has to be there. And if you don't have a change methodology, if you don't have anything that is showing organization and how you move a corporate from one status to another status, that's where you usually are struggling to stack data into the process because you don't know where to hang this thing.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, no. So this is the thing. I'll come back to some big takeaways a bit later, but I mean, the one thing you did touch on briefly as well, this kind of the data gym metaphor is very powerful. So I suppose if you were talking to execs or people, on this podcast today, is what exercises should organizations do to get data fit?
Yeah.
What are the things that you think are kind of essential that they should do daily?
Oh, the most central thing is to basically disambiguate the concepts you're having around the company. That's the most important thing. That's the basic of the mother of all the problems we're having in data. So when in a company we call two things they are different with the same name, or the other way around, we call the same thing two things are different with the same name, or two things are the same with different name, we are having a problem. And that's unfortunately is the mother of all the data problems. So the ability to start to exercise how we are coming out, how we are actually define and propagate standards around the company is absolutely the first exercise. In fact, in the book I'm talking about the interview I had once, and someone said, what should I do for you if you came and work for us? I said, very simple. One day you have two people in the room, I'll call you in, and basically you have to have these two people agreeing on one thing. That's the most important thing you can do for me.
So an example of that would be like what you're saying is that people don't have a consistent definition of customer or certain specific things like that, which are quite important.
Yes. One, there are companies that are having 10 different.
No. I don't. It's like let's dive down the rabbit hole. Yeah. Okay. So what you're saying is,
or even the classification. Not even. I'm having the same definition of the customer, right? If customer is someone we do commercial, blah blah blah, but I basically classify them in many different ways. Someone classifying them in corporate customer, non-corporate customer, retail. Another one is classifying them commercial, non-commercial, consumer. So these the two classifications are already creating enough, confusion in the company, so that everything you build on top, by the way, AI, is going to be confused by that.
Yes. Yeah.
So the first exercise is really
getting clarity on structure and standards.
Your domain ownership.
Foundational.
Which is your domain ownership. So how do I own the meanings? How do I standardize the meanings of things around the company? That's the literally.
Which links back to you said about metadata as well.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so I mean that's really useful. And I love the analogy of the athletes analogy, and the business athletes and the data personal trainers.
Yeah.
I think that's a really because obviously and also your analogy of data is a team sport. I think there's some really powerful messaging around that people think about.
It's where sometimes, most of the times we feel as well, right? We think as data is, that's your data team. You data team, you have to do this thing. No. We're doing this all together. I mean, there's no kind of way.
Yeah.
And even if you think about regulations, there's been for ages an attitude to think, I need to be good at personal data because of GDPR. But can you be good at just the personal data without being good at data? You can't. So also from a sporting point of view, you can't just be performing very well in one niche area of the data without being generically a good sportsman in data. So you need to be good at a variety of things. Otherwise, you will never have that at the end measurable value for people that are using your data outside of a company. So your customer, your regulators, your investors, even your employees.
Yeah, because I mean, the extension of the analogy for that is actually that the chief data officer or chief analytics officer or chief data AI officer is really like the chief coach. He's like the top coach for the data coach.
Yeah,
like that's an analogy that you could derive from that kind of theme that you've developed.
And cheekily, that helps you to untangle a bit of a question around value. I don't own value. If, as a personal trainer, let's put it a different way. As a personal trainer, I'm not the best athlete in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But if you are a good athlete and you have potential, it's up to me to make sure that potential is actually realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The coaches of Yannick Sinner or the coach of Usain Bolt cannot play as good or cannot run as well than the guys, but they are coaching them in getting their personal best. Exactly. Equally, from a value point of view, I cannot, as a chief data officer, I cannot go into the chief marketing office and say, look, if you use that data over there, you're going to have a new customer increase of 10%. I don't own that, but as I always say, as they own the what, the ambition, I know the how, right? I should own the how. Yes. Okay, you want to do that? I'll show you how. Then it's going to be down to you. The very last mile, which is the decision or the action that is triggered by the data, the best data I can deliver is still in their hands.
So it's a really good. It lands well. It's a really good way to land it. Actually, it's really good. So, I mean, I think following on from that I think there's another very powerful one, which is this thing about data is not AI. Given all the things that's flying around about AI, and has been for the last couple of years. But why does confusing the two put organizations at risk? So that thing about, if you're convincing executives that data is not AI, then you can get into this kind of confusion piece, because it's been bundled together quite a lot of position, isn't it?
But I know that there's a bit controversial, but sometimes controversy can help a book rather than hinder a book. But of course, if you get to the page, I don't know, page 7 or 8 in the final thing, and you see, data is no AI, and you are the chief AI officer, you might close the book and say, okay, that's not for me. The reality is this. The reality is that AI is a product, right? Mm-hmm. It's a tool, right? It's something that uses data.
Yes.
And generates data, like any other tool we use in data. So focusing too much on what is AI today with its generative form or whatever other form might distract you from what is the important thing you need to do, which is to get fit enough to use a product.
Yeah.
So again, back to the metaphor of the athlete, right? You can give the best shoes to someone, but it doesn't make them the Usain Bolt. It doesn't make them perform like Usain Bolt. However, once you are getting fitter and fitter and fitter, there's a moment in which the best shoes is going to help you to improve your personal best. You see, so that's the ICAI.
You're talking about the kind of marginal gains, kind of.
Exactly. So ICAI a lot in something that is like today, especially a certain level of the way you want to use AI, the way the type of AI outcome you're going to get. It's like you trying to I've done a couple of series in the gym yesterday, and now I'm trying to compete for the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So most likely you might cover yourself a bit of ridicule, or you might get hurt because you are using something that you're not able to use. think about pole vaulting, right? It's not like something that anyone can do day one.
It could be messy. It could be messy.
It could be messy. So for me, the attention is that I completely get that there is a treasure trove to go and try to put your hands on, because this thing is fundamentally changing the entirety, the makeup of our society, the way we do business on. But don't forget what is your fundamental, which you need to know yourself as a company. You need to know yourself. You know your data. You know your limit. You know your risk, and you know what you're made of. And then you understand how can you use this thing at the best. That's why I'm saying data is not AI.
No, it's great. I love it. The other thing that you raise, which I think is a really, really growing problem, is the idea of data debt.
Yes.
So could you explain to the audience just briefly, how do you measure it?
Yes.
And why is it so dangerous if it's being ignored?
Yes. So it comes a little bit from the concept of tech debt. So tech debt is in a way, I see a measure of the difference between what you would like to do and what will be the optimum and the entitlement of what you can do and what you can do given where you are today. This can be energetic, right? It can be something, if you think about, I like to be the best in mortgages to my customers, but the reality is the capabilities I have, the process I have, the data I have doesn't allow me to do that. Because maybe once in 10 of my proposal are the customer name is wrong, right? So the debt is the difference between what I would like to do with my data and and by the way, I'm not talking about the difference between you and perfection, right? Because sometimes people are thinking, no, I'm measuring myself in comparison to what the perfect world is. No, is the good enough. I'm having there are a lot of consumers' data around the company, people that are wanting data. And if the culture and the attitude, the ambition is properly expressed, I will know exactly what they want, right? So if I make a difference between what they want, I want all my 95% of my customers should have at least postcode and address that is, certified from an external source, which is good, right? But today I measure internally, it's only 90% of that or 80% of that, maybe because there is a couple of portfolios that are not yet in that, under the control. The difference is your data debt. Why I call it data debt? Because to fix that difference, you need to apply labor, or you need to, spend some more money with the certification agent. So you can always quantify it. For me, it's important to quantify that because sometimes you don't realize that you're building on sand. What I mean with that is you're thinking of creating the best AI algorithm in the world, right? But you're doing that in an incredibly sanitized environment. So you're not aware that outside in your operation, there is huge margin of data debt. So when you are actually putting together your cost-benefit analysis, you realize you forgot an element, which is before I can use this at the best, I need to fix some data. So that money or their investment or their amount of efforts is basically a lurking variable in your cost-benefit analysis. And then things
what you're saying is if you ignore it, the danger if you ignore it is that basically you're going to get surprised, you're going to get potentially a failure.
Yeah, you have, the long litany of a lot of digital transformation didn't go well. I will argue that they were underestimating the debt because you do a nice POC and it works fantastically. Then you do a pilot. Then you do a pilot in the best possible place, the place with people that are very willing. And then you say, oh, pilot went fine. Then let's scale, right? And you basically hit the rock of, but the data is not good enough there. And things are failing, customers are getting upset.
So she's shining a light on that data and getting that real readiness is kind of
my point is that you should be able to know that very early. You shouldn't find out at the end.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Yes, correct. Yeah. So but then I think that links to another point that you make about afterthought. Sometimes data is an afterthought, so it does cause that consternation. With lots of people putting running shoes on to suddenly realize, oh my God, we've got to sort all this out as well.
The type of things that happen, you do a fantastic project all the way to the, your Q&A, your testing, because, I've done this, I changed the process, I talk to people, systems are there, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden someone is testing this and say, but results are not there. It is not good enough. And then you are you burn through 90% of your budget, and you're in scrambling mode. Now you move from a nice waterfall and going to agile iteration, which you're trying to fix. And worst thing you can do at that point is actually say, all right, we go live, we'll fix it later. And then basically signing a big IOU of data debt. You're basically adding all the stuff that was wrong to your data debt mountain because you're just accepting this is going to be part of your operational environment.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It happens all the time, Andrew. Some people are not even seeing it anymore because they're waddling into this for ages.
No comment. Anyway. So, that's a good segue actually to the next one, because the next one I was going to talk to you about was data journeys, because what you said, it usually starts with a hero or regulation.
Yes.
So, there's a piece around that shouldn't be the way these things start. So how can leaders learn from your book around, how do you create something that's actually enterprise-wide, but actually is more sustainable and more long-lasting?
Yeah, and the whole point about going beyond the hero. So because the problem with when people will read the book, will understand, right? So sometimes you have just a person that decides to go ahead and say, okay, the company is not following me, but I'll put some slush fund over there and I'll hire a couple of people behind the scenes and I'll start to do this data thing or this AI thing. And it's fine, but again, back to the previous point, it doesn't scale if the rest of the company is not ready and there is not an environment conducive of taking that and scale it up. So it's back to the preparation of the culture. Like everything else, data is a journey of change, is a change of lifestyle. Yeah. So at a certain point, it has to become explicit, has to become a mantra in the company that we want to do this because of that. And then it's not just something.
It has to become properly elevated and supported.
Properly elevated. It has to be part of the DNA. Here you test how good your company is at learning new things. Because sometimes learning new things like data and use of AI means that you can unlearn a couple of things. Like, for example, accepting during an executive meeting, someone shows up with a piece of paper and say, I've done my calculation. There you go. This is it. No source identified, no understanding where data comes from, but just you cannot. And the ambition, the will is to have people accepting it just because I took it out from my system.
So the cottage industry.
So that is something that is more ingrained than the vicious circle of I understand my data, I understand what it's made of, I standardize the requirement, I create the design. So that because this is felt a little bit to be a bit longer, a longer burn. We need to be fast. Yes, but if you do your calculation well, you will understand that doing the other way around, create a cottage factory, it's not making you fast. It's making you a bit more unpredictable.
Yeah, because you have to do all the rework on the back end and fixing the cottage, don't you?
And that's an exquisite data problem in itself, because calculating that, trying to understand, to basically visualize and give your business an idea of how much the cottage industries of the current approach of doing things on a side can affect your ability to be, really data driven. That's in itself probably one of the first problems the data personal trainer has to try to objectify for people. Because there's nothing like a nice piece of data which has to be believable. That's the other problem. So how you make your company believing what you're producing. And so when is the hero not just a heretic, but a true hero, is when the rest of the people understand that it's a hero. Otherwise, it's just a person that probably should be stopped.
But the other thing you mentioned was regulation as well. You're saying that, what you've seen regulation being the trigger as well.
Coming from the financial services, most of the things I've seen done in data in the past, and then we were talking before about Basel II. So Basel was a huge regulatory push. And then on the back of that, we have BCBS 239. Again, and if you look at BCBS 239 today, it's just, that's data management 101, right?
Exactly.
And why? Because the regulators say, I don't need just the numbers. I need to know how you made these numbers. I need to be sure there's to be an assurance that what you're giving me is good. So, and sometimes back to what we're saying, it cannot be just good at personal data if you're trying to comply with GDPR. The more enlightened one took the regulatory push as the first seed to create more of a wider data program. And that was the case in G, for example, remember. So the G Capital, there was a lot of when the Federal Reserve was basically started regulating G, data became really almost an obsession.
Yeah.
A good obsession, but still. Yeah, regulatory is definitely a catalyst. The issue for corporations is trying to move away from, I do this because the regulator is asking it, and started to think more like, no, I do this, and while I'm doing this in the right way,
part of my business. It's part of my operating model anyway.
The regulation comes as a byproduct. So because the way I'm doing it, what I call, compliance by outcome. So in the outcome I put in place is also everything that I need to demonstrate my compliance. But I'm not just doing this for compliance. I'm doing this because I want to be a better business.
Yeah, because it's strategic rather than being reactive.
Correct. Because the regulators will never be strategic, because most of the time they're reacting to a physiological thing they're seeing in the market. So they're trying to stem an issue, or trying to remove some problems, or foster some better attitude and behavior. But as a company, you cannot be just following what the regulator is saying. You need to look a bit further. You need to have a bit more foresight and say, okay, if they are trying to go there, I need to do a deflection shot. I need to shoot a little bit in front so that I know that I'm going to get there when they are going to ask me.
Which goes back to which goes back to some of the points we made a bit earlier, I suppose, about the afterthought piece, and also about also data excellence is really beyond data governance. It's kind of it's really, you should embed it into your DNA of your organization, your strategy.
But that's where I was making the difference between governance. I didn't put it in the book, but because I was then making too many metaphors and too much Latin. But governum in Latin is the tiller, right? So it's the tiller on the ship. So the governance is basically, how do I steer this thing so I keep a direction? But now data governance is a little bit more, how do I have a process that allows me to steer my data in the right direction? But what is the right direction? It's the one I'm told by my consumers of data, because they tell me what they want. So my data governance is to try to deliver what they want. But it's not just, I need to have a policy, I need to have a forum, I need to have a council. Those are ancillary bits of governance.
Yes.
For me, that's why, as it's kind of the background radiation, is that the ability for you to be, it's a posture, it's a general posture in which I know what is to be done. There are processes, there are things. One of the processes is data governance. So I'm getting a bit itchy when people are basically labeling the data team as data governance team, as like the only thing you go around and doing is policing. That's not our job.
Yeah, because it's got a bit like that. It's got a bit like that, hasn't it? So that's a good analogy, actually. I mean, it's also pays to your sailing. You do a lot of sailing.
Absolutely.
As well. So the tiller is always in the hand.
The tiller is in the hand, and the gauges and the compass is in front of you, right? But as I was mentioning something on LinkedIn the other day. But if you only focus on the compass and the tiller, and you don't look at the sea, you don't look at your crew, you're missing something. So that situational awareness.
You're missing that storm coming.
Correct. Exactly that. So you're going the right direction, but you don't see that basically 300 meters in front of you, the wind is turning, so you need to change the sail, and your crew is actually tired of maneuvering because you've been asking them to do a lot of things up until now. So that's going to be...
You need to get them on a broad reach so they can put their feet up. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, broad reach can be airy if there's enough wind.
Well, as long as you put the spinnaker up, good. Anyway.
Yeah. Well...
So you also touch on, which I know has been a big topic in the data kind of world for quite a while, or the data, you could say, practitioners world, about treating data as a product.
Yes.
So what have you articulated about what people can learn from like product management and monetization related to data? Is there kind of any crossover there, do you think?
There's definitely an easy correlation to make. Literally, there's an acid test I'm doing in the book saying, can data be treated as a product? The answer is yes. And what's the ramification of that? The ramification of that is that you start to use techniques that are more in place for product development into data product development, namely agile. But beyond that, I think once you start to think data product as agile, then you need to reconcile some of the clashes that might happen internally to the organization, because not all organizations are thinking agile 100%. So if you start to have a lot
go waterfall.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the fact that in perfect conditions, there should be no difference between waterfall and agile in terms of If you start from the same point and you need to go to the same place, there should be no difference in timing. But the problem is that perfect conditions are never there. Right? That's why Agile has got better chance. However, what's happening though is that if you have still part of your company is working very much in waterfall, how can you provide them productization of data in an agile fashion? So you need to reconcile that, because you can't say to someone that is saying, oh, in 6 months I need to deliver this to the customer, and saying, okay, in 3 months I'm going to give you 50% of that. In another 3 months I'll give you 70%. Then we'll look at you and say, well, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So there is that reconciliation. But once the reconciliation is done, managing a portfolio of data products is way more effective and beneficial, especially if you look at reusage. Because once you move away from the concept of I give you one thing for you to use, and that for that specific purpose, for that specific usage. Instead, I'm giving you components you can reuse to make together something going to be used for a specific purpose. You can understand that you increase the level of reusage, and if you reuse more, you can actually decrease your cost to insight and your time to insight. A quick example. So if you are trying to show your customer orders, and in the olden days, you would have went to all the places where the customers are, all the places where orders are, and basically put together something for the customer to use in a nice,
summary
dashboard. You done once. Instead, in the productization world, basically what you do is saying you are having orders for customers ready as a kind of a prefab piece of thing that is fed by all your different systems where orders are captured, and maybe you have another piece of customer data product, which is your customers, right? And the person has to create now something for the customer for insight. It just has to reuse this product. And basically, I'm not saying something abstract. I mean, everyone is trying to do that, but the secret here is always in this. How do you convince someone that is wanting to do something that they believe they came up with and they believe can deliver the best value to reuse something? Because imagine your attitude as a human being and say, no, I only trust what I'm actually going to build with my little hands, and I know what it's coming from, I know what it's made of, and I'm sure that is going to deliver that. Instead, if I come to you and say, no, don't do that from scratch, use this, right? Use this. The key there is still, surprise, surprise, metadata. Because the only way I can convince you that is good for you is to show you what it's made of, to show you where it's come from, to give you it's like a catalog. You only buy the thing from a catalog if you're convinced that thing is going to do the right, is actually usable for you. So productization of data requires a lot more of rigor in the way you do metadata.
But also it raises the point about elevation again, and sponsorship,
absolutely,
and strategy again. It's back to that point as well, isn't it? About actually, it's a new way of working. It's a new mindset.
Yeah. So it has to be, again, that's why I'm always thinking about the culture and the mindset and the methodology. And if you do this properly, we also have the right tools to measure the value. And then in productization and monetization, mentioning that you can have more of a market value for your data, and putting some quick and dirty thing, trying to explain people what you should look for to understand whether what you're trying to do is monetizable, or more an inventory value for your data, because there's going to be an inherent cost that you want to put in place to create this thing.
Yes, a supply chain.
And one of the other problems you, as a data personal trainer, you need to be acutely aware of, that the language of business is money. Cracking the finance problem of what happens if I build a product in this place and I take all the cost to build a product in this place. My finance team says to me that actually I need to recharge and basically understand how my P&L would be basically reflecting that. There is also a process of recharging and making sure that across the organization there is a good
proper cost
allocation. Well. Yes, which you and me know from GE was like a science, right? The cost allocation. It
was an obsession.
Scores of teams doing that. Yeah. So.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I've got a couple more questions and then a bit of a wrap up. So, in this kind of AI first world that we seem to be kind of like evolving into, what role do humans still play and how do you keep the digital neo-humanism alive, as you would call it?
What is prompt engineering for you? Sorry, I'm answering a question with another question. But
well, it's providing input into and guidance and strategy.
Yeah, but you see, I think we can all agree that the quality of your answer comes from the quality of a question.
Correct.
That's
ask better questions.
Instead of change for a second the word prompt engineering with, you tell a story to the AI so the AI can give you the best answer.
Mm-hmm.
Then the ability to tell the right story, it's something that is absolutely very much grounded in your intellect and your creative nature of a human being.
Yes.
So what you want to do with things, the ability to craft our own environment and around us is innate in us. That's what. So back to AI as a product. So the only thing I want to do is how do I craft AI in a way that is giving me value? And the way I craft AI is with my words now.
Mm-hmm.
But these words, this ability to make AI doing something amazing is not implicit in AI. It's something that is, from a humanistic point of view, I am the demiurge, the maker of this value through AI, through my words. So funny enough, when I found out, looking a bit deeper into this, and although technicians are very much in love with the fact that when I make a prompt engineering as a science, I'll go back to true philosophy and the way and I'm talking about Socrates and how I extract the truth from the person. So my data consumer comes to me and say, I want to do this for my customer. All right, let's sit down. Let's understand a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. So maybe one day AI will play the role of the data personal trainer, but nobody can change the fundamental, for a little while longer, I believe, nobody can change the fact that the human being is the center of understanding what data can do for other human beings. Because in the end, imagine we, as consumer, as people, leaders in the business, we are doing something with our companies that will provide value to external parties, customers, even employees. So we are the conduit to using our data to produce something. Now, if one day we are not talking to people anymore, but we're talking to AI, so it's an AI to AI conversation, this is actually the digital neo-humanism would have been gone by then. I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. We're still providing products and goods to human beings. So we need to understand human being, and to be able to derive value, to create value through our decision, we still have to use our creativity. Now we'll explain this in a articulated, unbiased manner to a bot, and the bot will give us an answer. But the fundamental step is digital humanism says that all this technology is actually putting the human being more at the center, not more in the background. We are actually now coming really at the foreground of the action, because anything can be done with application and technology. So what is the difference? Is our ideas.
That's the real constraint.
Yeah.
So it's not really limited. It's limited by our human potential.
Yes, and we are limited. We see all the issues we're having, right? Because plenty of experiments have done in the past where a bot was put online and overnight became xenophobic, homophobic, Nazi, because it was exposed to uncontrolled learning.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So you see,
exposed with no curation or filter. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Curation is good. Curation, what is giving you is trying to create a better nexus between, what is learned and what is actually the exposure and what is learned. It's funny enough, is finding a connection between nurture versus nature. So what is actually something that is implicit in our algorithm, and what is actually something that is exogenous, is something that is generated by the environment. It's one of the oldest problems we're having as human beings. So you tell me that we are not going back 25 centuries ago and trying to find better. We're trying to find the solution to the same problems in a different guise.
So my final question for today, because I know we got some. We don't want to tell the audience all the jewels from this book before the book gets out. But anyway,
Spoiler alert.
we've touched on some little interesting. But looking ahead, I mean, what does data excellence Nirvana look like, and what are the first steps companies can take tomorrow to move closer to that?
Well, the Nirvana, as I was saying, in my parable of the 3Ds of the CDOs, right? You start as a chief dashboard officer because that's the only thing they want. Then, if you've done properly the things, they will become a chief data officer because they understand that behind the data, behind the dashboard, there is data. So data must be curated, must be, properly removed from all the debts. But the Nirvana is when you are actually get to the last D. You are a coach for better decisions. So you are the chief decision officer. Again, you don't make those decisions, but you create the environment, you create the elements, you create the fitness, the performances, so that people can make the best possible decision with the data that are in their hands. And can be data-driven, can be AI-driven, I don't care. As long as you are basically able to show that your purpose in life or your purpose at work is to make people taking the best decision, creating value and measuring what was wrong and basically improving next time. I think that's the Nirvana. Nirvana is when you move away from a lot of, should we do a product, should we do things, but it's more, decision is the key thing we need to foster.
So getting fit for your decisions, getting fitter, and more
by using
peak performance on your decisions,
and creating what I call an enterprise digital twin of your company. So once your know thyself is accomplished, so I should know at every point in time, at every point in space, where is my data, what is my data doing, who's using it to do for. When I done that, so
this is back to your mirror analogy from a while ago.
Mirror on the wall. So just ask the mirror and tell him.
Who's the most beautiful of this episode?
Well, that would be a biased question, as you know, right? So you shouldn't let. But what's going to happen when this regulation comes out? What should I do why should I change my product if I want to get into this market? The why questions are way more fundamental. And today we're barely answering the what questions with the models we have.
Fantastic. Well, I know we could have this episode that could go on for hours and hours and hours, because what I would say to anybody that does and will have this book in their hand very soon, and I know you're going to be doing a special event very soon in September, aren't you? Do you want to announce that? Is that
going to be a big data London, yes, signing.
Is it official? Can you declare it today, or? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have. I don't have a contract in my hands, but it's more like we at the bookshop there's a bookshop in Big Data London, the 24th and 25th. So we'll be there with copies, physical copies, fine, and signing. So and possibly a little present for people who are going to be there, just a special one, special token.
What, like a selfie with you? Is that the special gift?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Some Italian beer, some Italian
bookmark or some Italian drum, or I don't know, a bottle of limoncello. We'll see what happens.
That's good. That's a good idea. Some Italian food. You could have like an Italian little festival there.
Yeah, it will be Italian excellence, right? So that's we call it regional excellence from Campania, from my region.
No, thank you very much for coming on today's show, the Praxi Pod with Roberto Maranca, because. And, congratulations on this book. It's a fantastic book. I've read it. It's really, really good. And I think everybody should buy it if they're in the data world or they're a business leader who wants to get their arms around this topic, because not only have you put in place, you've given obviously some of the history based on your extensive experience, but you've also created some new concepts which I think people are very accessible, that people can get their head around and then start saying, okay, how do you apply that into their business, which is really, really good. So I celebrate what you've done and excited for you for September and October.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we are on LinkedIn, just one click away. Just be in touch in case.
Exactly. Well, we've been now Roberto Maranca, evangelist and chief data officer and also author.
Yes, now we are the one thing, but... Yes, it's not for the faint-hearted, but once you've done it, you feel you're accomplished.
Now the fun begins. Yeah, when you're doing all these.
Well, we'll see.
Things in the future.
But anyway, let's still have a job. Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, Andrew.
Much, and have a great day today.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.